You might think you're tough. You've handled traffic jams, Wi-Fi outages, and lukewarm coffee. But drop you into the heart of medieval Europe? You'd be begging to come back before the sun even sets. Forget dragons and knights in shining armor. This was a world of disease, dirt, and desperation. And if you think you'd thrive back then, think again. Here's exactly why you wouldn't last 12 hours in medieval times. You wake up, not in your soft memory foam mattress, but on a rough sack stuffed with straw, most of it moldy, damp, and teeming with insects. Fleas, lice, and even rats are common companions in the dark, musty room you've been crammed into with your entire family. Privacy doesn't exist here. You slept in your clothes, your one and only set of clothes, worn for weeks without washing because there's no such thing as a laundry routine. The air is heavy with the scent of unwashed bodies, mold, smoke, and something sour you can't quite place, and probably don't want to. Your first breath of the morning is filled with that unmistakable mix of human sweat, burning firewood, and whatever rotting waste is just outside the door. No toothpaste to freshen your breath, no running water, no sink. If you're lucky, there's a communal bucket you can splash your face with, one that's been used by everyone else already. The bucket water is murky, sitting stagnant, and it might even have a thin film on top. There's no soap, just maybe some gritty sand or old ashes to scrub with if you're really concerned about cleanliness. Need the toilet? Forget it. There's no bathroom, just a wooden outhouse out back if you live in a village, or a chamber pot under the bed if you're in a town. And yes, you're expected to dump that pot into the street in the morning, just like everyone else. Gardyloo, they shout before tossing human waste out the window, hoping to warn any unfortunate soul walking below. If you're in a castle or manor, it's not much better. Just fancier holes in the floor that lead to cesspits. Your stomach growls. Time for breakfast. Except, it's not going to be anything close to what you're used to. No cereal, no eggs, no coffee. Instead, you might get a chunk of stale, tough bread. Sometimes so hard you have to soak it in water or ale to even chew it. Butter, cheese, or some old stew from the night before might accompany it, if you're lucky. And that's assuming you have food. Famine is always looming. A bad harvest could mean days without proper meals. Many lived their lives permanently hungry, not knowing when they'd eat again. For peasants, even breakfast was a gamble. For the poor in towns, starvation was a real, constant threat. Forget caffeine. There's no coffee, no tea. Water is often unsafe to drink, contaminated by waste and runoff. Beer or weak ale becomes the norm, even for children. Why? Because it's fermented, which makes it safer than the water. Your body, unused to bacteria-laced everything, starts to betray you. Diarrhea, dysentery, parasites, they're normal parts of life. The medieval digestive system had to be tough. Yours wouldn't last a day. And just as you're trying to adjust to the overwhelming reality, you realize you're already behind. There's no such thing as a morning routine, where you ease into the day. You've already wasted precious time not working. Sunrise to sunset is for labor, backbreaking, endless, and brutally repetitive. Whether you're hauling water from the well, grinding grain into flour, cleaning animal pens, or preparing food over an open fire that fills your tiny home with smoke, everything takes 5 times as long without modern tools. You're not even awake yet, but the medieval world doesn't care. It demands your energy, your time, and your health, and it gives back almost nothing in return. And remember, no deodorant, no shampoo, no toothpaste, no toilet paper, not even tissues. The most basic modern comforts are absent. You're not just physically uncomfortable, you're mentally unraveling. You're sticky, itchy, tired, and hungry. You haven't even left the house yet. The hardest part? This wasn't a bad day in the Middle Ages. This was the standard day. And for most people, it was the best they could hope for. And you still think you could last 12 hours? You step outside your tiny, drafty home and immediately regret it. The cold punches you in the face like a slap from nature itself. There's no central heating to return to, no warm radiator humming in the corner, no heated floors, no thermal socks tucked in your drawer. What you have is what you wear, and what you wear isn't nearly enough. Your clothes are layers of coarse wool, scratchy, itchy, and not particularly warm. Undergarments made from rough linen, often unchanged for weeks. Maybe you have a cloak if you're lucky, and a pair of leather boots that were probably handed down through generations, already cracked and stiff from years of wear. The soles are thin, and you feel every rock, every patch of frozen mud underneath you. If it rained the day before, the ground is now a treacherous sheet of ice. You slip, you fall. You get back up, cold, wet, and bruised. There's no insulation in your home. The walls are made of wattle and daub, twigs and mud, basically, and they do very little to keep out the chill. The wind whistles through cracks in the wall, and the roof leaks whenever it rains or snows. There are no glass windows, just open slits covered in cloth or thin animal hide, maybe a wooden shutter if you're slightly better off. At night you stuff straw or rags into the gaps to try and block the wind, but it never really works. The cold finds you. It always finds you. If you're a peasant, and odds are you are, you sleep in the same room as your livestock. Not because you're an animal lover, but because their body heat is the only source of warmth you can count on. Chickens, pigs, goats, all inside with you. Their breath clouds the air. Their droppings mix with the already putrid smell of human waste. And yet their warmth is better than nothing. This isn't quaint. It's desperate survival. The hearth is the only source of heat, and you can't keep it burning all night. Wood is scarce and expensive. If you're in a forested area, you might have better luck, but even then, gathering firewood is laborious, often illegal, depending on the Lord's land, and brutally cold work in itself. Charcoal is precious. Coal, if available, is even more precious. Most of the time, you burn peat or dried animal dung. Yes, dung. The smell is horrendous, but you're beyond caring. It smokes constantly, stings your eyes, coats everything in soot, and still, somehow, it doesn't warm the whole room. It warms the few feet directly in front of it. Everyone else huddles close, teeth chattering, hands outstretched, hoping the fire lasts just a little longer. And bathing? Not in winter. Never in winter. Water has to be fetched from a frozen well or river, carried in heavy buckets, and heated manually, if you even have the fuel. That means days, weeks, or even entire seasons without washing your body. You stink. Everyone stinks. But that's not even the worst part. The grime builds, infections take hold, chilblains on your fingers and toes, cracks in your lips and heels, the beginnings of frostbite without you even realizing it. And if you get sick, too bad. There's no medicine, no antibiotics, and little understanding of how disease works. Getting the flu in modern times is annoying. Getting it in medieval winter is a death sentence. Your fingers don't move the way you want them to. Your breath fogs up the air. You try to work because you must. There are animals to feed, food to prepare, chores to finish. There are no snow days, no time off. The cold is not a reason to rest. It is simply a new enemy to endure. Children walk barefoot on frozen ground. Elderly people simply don't survive the season. Winter is not festive here. It's a battle. Even inside the wealthier homes or castles, warmth is limited. Stone walls absorb the cold and radiate it inward. Massive fireplaces roar in great halls, but the heat rarely makes it to the upper rooms. Servants sleep near the kitchen for a reason. It's the only place with a steady fire. Drafts slip under doors and around windows, no matter how many tapestries or rugs you hang on the wall. Bed warmers, metal pans filled with hot coals, are passed under sheets to chase the chill away, but those are reserved for the elite. You're back in your straw mattress, shivering, huddled with your family, hoping the fire doesn't die before sunrise. And sunrise is no relief. The cold continues. There is no escape, no button to press, no heater to click on. You have to endure. every single day, through snow, sleet, wind, and biting cold that drills into your bones. Your phone battery wouldn't even make it 5 minutes. But it's not just your phone that would fail. It's you. Your body isn't built for this. Your mindset isn't built for this. And by the time the sun dips below the horizon, you'd be ready to trade anything for a single heated blanket. But here, that luxury is centuries away. And this was only one season. You walk through the muddy streets of a medieval town, and almost immediately, you can feel it in the air. Tension. People move quickly, eyes darting, heads down. There's a hum of fear beneath everything. This isn't your safe, predictable modern life where violence is rare and authorities try to keep the peace. In the Middle Ages, violence is not the exception. It's the norm. It's expected. It's part of the social fabric. And you? You are not prepared. Let's start with the law. There are no police officers patrolling the streets. If you're assaulted or robbed, you're on your own. Maybe someone from the town watch will hear your cries, if you're lucky, but chances are they won't intervene. They're not trained, they're not consistent, and often they're as dangerous as the criminals. Justice isn't blind here. It's cruel, biased, and often arbitrary. And it's public. Executions, floggings, and punishments are carried out in town squares for everyone to see, not as a deterrent, but as entertainment. Children watch hangings. People cheer at beheadings. You don't just fear the violence, you live inside it. Theft? Lose a hand? Blasphemy? Get your tongue torn out or your ears cut off. Commit adultery? You might be stoned to death, and there's no trial like you know it, no jury of peers, no lawyer to defend you. A lord decides your fate. Maybe a priest, maybe someone who already hates you. If you're accused, even falsely, you could face trial by ordeal, walk across hot coals, carry a red-hot iron, or be thrown into a river. Survive, and maybe you're innocent. Die, and, well, at least God knows your heart. And this is the legal violence. Then there's the everyday kind. You walk through a village and glance the wrong way at the wrong person. Maybe they're drunk. Maybe they're having a bad day. A punch in the face. A dagger to the ribs. That's not unusual. People carry knives, clubs, even swords. Not as decorations, but because they might need them at any moment. Honor is everything. Disrespect can turn lethal. There's no HR department here. No apologies, no social media backlash, only blood and broken bones. If you're a woman, the danger is even worse. There is almost no legal protection from abuse, harassment, or assault. A woman's body is often considered property, either her father's or her husband's. If you're a servant, a peasant girl, or simply alone at night, your vulnerability is terrifying. Crying for help might do nothing. Reporting the crime might make things worse. Survival, for many, means silence. And then there's war. Wars don't happen somewhere else. They happen here, in your village, on your farmland, in your home. You might wake up one morning to find foreign soldiers marching through your town, setting fire to homes, slaughtering animals, and doing far worse to people. You might be forced into a militia, handed a rusty spear, and told to defend your lord's land, whether you understand the cause or not. Knights, those romantic figures you've seen in movies, are not noble saviors. They're elite warriors trained from childhood to kill with brutal efficiency. Many see commoners as expendable. Some are mercenaries. If they decide to raid your village, there's no stopping them. There's no one to call, no escape, and don't expect to heal from your wounds. Medical care is medieval in every sense of the word. If you're stabbed or beaten, you're at the mercy of the local barber surgeon who might cure your injury with a red-hot iron, a saw, or a prayer. Infection is almost guaranteed. An open wound means a coin flip between survival and sepsis. There's no anesthesia, no antibiotics, no clean tools. Just grit your teeth and hope you don't scream too loudly. And if you're lucky enough to avoid physical violence, you're still not safe. Power itself is violence. The noble class can do whatever they want. They can take your land, your money, even your life, on a whim. If you're accused of something by someone richer or more powerful than you, your fate is sealed. You're guilty. There is no appeal. There is no justice. Your existence is subject to the will of those above you, and they answer to no one. Religion, too, isn't the soft, comforting institution you might know today. It's a force of fear and authority. Step outside the accepted belief, you're a heretic. That label alone could get you arrested, tortured, or burned at the stake. The church not only dictates your morals, it enforces them with fire and steel. Even being seen as different can be deadly. Say the wrong thing, question a doctrine, read the wrong book. That's all it takes. So, you walk the streets again, this time with your head down. You try to be invisible. But even that isn't protection. The world is watching. The world is dangerous. And no matter how careful you are, eventually, the violence finds you. In the dark alley, in the angry mob, in the disapproving glance of a noble, in the cruel decree of a lord. This isn't a game. It's not a Renaissance fair. It's life in the Middle Ages. And if you still think you could last 12 hours, just remember, you're a tourist in a world where weakness is a death sentence. You take one step into a medieval city, and before your eyes can register what you're seeing, your nose sounds the alarm. The smell hits you like a brick wall, dense, sour, pungent, and absolutely inescapable. You gag. You cover your mouth. You try to breathe through your shirt. But nothing helps. There is no fresh air in a medieval town. Not outside, not inside, not anywhere. The stench is a living thing. It crawls up your nostrils, clings to your clothes, seeps into your hair. It's inescapable because it is the city. The source? Everything. Absolutely everything contributes to the overwhelming, unholy cocktail of odors. Begin with human waste. There are no sewer systems, not in the modern sense. Some cities had primitive drainage ditches or open gutters, but even those were rarely cleaned. Instead, chamber pots, ceramic or metal bowls used to collect nightly business, were emptied directly into the street, from the second-floor windows, with little to no warning. If you didn't hear Gardyloo being shouted and jump out of the way fast enough, you were going to wear someone's dinner from the night before. Now imagine hundreds, maybe thousands of people doing that every day. Multiply that by animals, pigs, chickens, goats, and horses, all living and walking through the same streets. Their droppings mix with the human waste, forming thick, muddy sludge that cakes the roads. In the rain, the mess turns to a sticky paste that clings to your shoes and legs. In summer, it dries and becomes dust, swirling into your mouth with every gust of wind. You are inhaling powdered filth, constantly. There are no trash services, no landfills, no dumpsters, garbage, everything from rotten food scraps to broken tools, dead rats, old clothing, and fish guts, is simply thrown into the street. If it piles up too high, maybe someone will push it into a corner or a river. Otherwise, it just stays there, decomposing slowly, feeding the rats and the flies and the smell. Speaking of animals, dead ones are a common sight. A horse collapses in the road. No one has the equipment or strength to move it. It rots where it falls, bloating, then splitting open under the sun, spreading disease, and a suffocating wave of decay across the neighborhood. Dogs fight over the entrails. People step over the carcass like it's a puddle. No one bats an eye. If you're near a butcher shop, and they're everywhere, prepare for more horror. The killing is done out in the open. Blood pours into the street. Heads, entrails, bones, all discarded nearby or sold to the poorest for soup. The smell of fresh meat might be pleasant in a modern kitchen, but in the street heat of a medieval summer, it's putrid. The scent of decay mixed with iron and bile saturates the air. There are no refrigerators, meat goes bad fast, and people still eat it. Spoilage isn't a warning sign, it's normal. The tanneries might be the worst of all. Tanning leather required animal hides to be soaked in vats of urine and lime and then scraped clean with knives. The hair and flesh removed from the hides rotted in piles nearby. Some tanning methods even used dog feces to help soften the skins. The result? An industrial-level stink that wafted across towns like a death fog. Tanneries were often built near rivers, which seemed like a good idea until you realized they were dumping all their chemical waste directly into the water, along with the blood, fat, and hair. And guess what? That's the same river where many people got their drinking water. You try to find refuge inside a home or an inn, but it's not much better. The walls are rarely cleaned, the floors are strewn with straw or rushes that are meant to absorb spills. But they also absorb everything else: urine, vomit, animal droppings, and spilled ale. The rushes are replaced maybe once a season, sometimes less. Layers of filth build up until you're walking on a compost pile of disease. Rats scurry beneath your feet. Fleas jump from person to person. No wonder plagues were so common. Personal hygiene is, at best, occasional. Baths are rare. Soap is rudimentary, and most people think washing too often is unhealthy. Perfume, when it exists, is not to smell better. It's to smell less bad. Your body odor mixes with the environment's stench until it all becomes one massive assault on the senses. You might start to lose your sense of smell after a few hours, not because your body has adapted, but because it's overwhelmed. You think you'll get used to it. You won't. You'll grow exhausted from holding your breath. Your stomach will churn from the constant exposure to rotting everything. You might vomit. You might cry. You'll certainly wish you could teleport to the nearest 7-Eleven and breathe air conditioning. This isn't an exaggeration. This was the reality. Smell wasn't an occasional inconvenience. It was a defining part of life. It shaped how people lived, where they walked, how they ate, and how they died. Disease wasn't just invisible. It had a scent. Death lingered in every alley. You didn't need to see it to know it was close. You could smell it. And you, the modern, sanitized, scented, hand sanitizer-loving human, you wouldn't last 12 minutes, let alone 12 hours. The Middle Ages would make sure of that, one breath at a time. You try to adjust to the sights, the sounds, the filth, but soon you realize that the hardest part of surviving in medieval times isn't just the physical discomfort. It's the mental and emotional suffocation, the utter lack of freedom, the absence of information, the total powerlessness that wraps around you like chains. The moment you set foot in the Middle Ages, your modern mind becomes a burden, a prison of consciousness in a world where knowledge is forbidden, rights are illusions, and hope is a distant fantasy. Let's start with your status. Unless you were born into the 1%, the nobility or clergy, you have no real agency. You are not a person in the way you think of it today. You are a role, a body, a tool. You're a peasant, a serf, a servant, bound not just by class but by law, blood, and religion. Your job, your family, your place in society, all predetermined before you even take your first breath. There is no dream big. There is no social mobility. There is only the grind, the repetition, the survival. You don't own your land. The Lord does. You don't own your time. The church and the crown do. You work from dawn until dusk, and even then, you owe a portion of your harvest, your labor, or your animals to those above you. Tithes to the church, taxes to the Lord, dues to the miller, fees to the baker. You live in a perpetual state of debt and dependency. If the crops fail, it's your fault. If a soldier demands food or shelter, you must obey. If a priest accuses you of heresy, you burn. And forget education. You're illiterate. Almost everyone is. Books are hand-copied treasures owned by monasteries and universities, not something you can borrow from a local library. Even if you could read, there's almost nothing to read in your language. Most texts are written in Latin, a language reserved for the elite. Ideas are not freely shared. They are hoarded, locked away behind stained glass and stone walls. Curious about the stars? The church might accuse you of devil worship. Want to know how the body works? You could be branded a heretic for questioning God's design. Think the earth revolves around the sun? That belief could get you imprisoned, or worse. Scientific knowledge is centuries behind, and any deviation from accepted religious doctrine is considered dangerous, even deadly. Your modern understanding of the world, biology, astronomy, physics, psychology, wouldn't just be useless here. It would be seen as suspicious, threatening, even blasphemous. There are no human rights, no legal protections, no concept of freedom as you know it. Women are property, children are labor. People with disabilities are hidden, mocked, or condemned. Mental illness is misunderstood and feared, often treated with beatings, exorcisms, or isolation. If you don't fit into the mold of what's considered normal or useful, you're pushed to the margins of society. And those margins are dark, cold, and merciless. The psychological pressure is crushing. Everyone is watching. Every action is judged. Your neighbors can denounce you to the priest, the Lord, or the Inquisitor. Gossip carries weight. Rumors can get you killed. You live in fear, not just of violence or starvation, but of saying the wrong thing, asking the wrong question, thinking the wrong thought. The church teaches that even your mind can sin. Even your doubts can damn you. And the rituals. Every day is filled with superstition, penance, and forced devotion. You must attend Mass. You must confess. You must fear hell as much as you fear disease or hunger. Life isn't just difficult, it's a test, a trial, a waiting room for the afterlife. Pleasure is suspect, curiosity is dangerous, individuality is sin, and joy is fleeting, rare, and often punished. Marriage isn't about love. It's about survival, politics, property, reproduction. If you're a woman, your body is a contract. Your worth is tied to dowries, chastity, and obedience. If you're a man, your life is dictated by duty, loyalty, and honor. There's no time to discover who you really are. You exist to fulfill a role, to conform, to obey. Even the idea of you is foreign here. In a world where God is everything and the soul belongs to the church, personal identity means very little. There's no Instagram profile, no self-expression, no journey of self-discovery. There is only work, faith, and fear. You can't choose your job. You can't choose your beliefs. You can't choose your fate. And even if you did have a rebellious thought, a spark of modern consciousness, you'd have nowhere to put it, no one to talk to, no safe space to explore it. You'd carry that thought in silence, knowing that speaking it aloud could lead to ruin. You'd begin to lose yourself, not in the dramatic, cinematic way, but slowly, quietly. Your sense of self would erode under centuries of ignorance and oppression. You'd go numb. You'd stop asking questions. You'd stop dreaming. Your modern mind, full of ideas, potential, and possibilities, would start to wither. Because in the Middle Ages, it's not just the body that suffers, it's the soul. And that's why, even more than the cold or the violence or the disease, you wouldn't last 12 hours. You'd be buried alive in the silence of your own unspoken thoughts.